European Union is starting to sanction its own people. And this is not a joke. This is the sickest of the new developments coming to you from the defenders of democracy, from the defenders of civil rights, and the defenders of journalism. And it's only befitting that the first people from the European Union, their own citizens, that the EU is sanctioning are actually journalists. Yes, they are journalists, people who report to you things that are happening, and people who, of course, according to the European Union, are spreading misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and Russian propaganda. But again, this is, you just have to take the word of the European Union for it. You just have to believe them. I wasn't aware of this until very recently, but the newest sanction package against Russia is actually sanctioning two German nationals, which is a new low of this already not only useless but dangerous organization. Let's look at it. This was done by European Council decision. So this is part of the executive branch of the European Union that is adopting this 17th sanction package. This sanction package was adopted based upon the recommendation by Kaja Kallas, by the foreign policy chief of the EU. This was Kaja Kallas that proposed the following list of individuals and entities to be sanctioned, and the Council, the European Union Council, then signed off on it unanimously. So all 27 member states said yes to this abomination. The Union remains unwavering in its condemnation of Russia's malign activities directed against the Union, its member states, international organizations, and third countries. In view of the gravity of the situation, the Council considers that 21 natural persons and 6 legal persons, entities, or bodies should be added to the list of natural or legal persons to be sanctioned. And really, this is a long list, and you see you get the names of the people, and so far it has only been Russian citizens, right, that were sanctioned. Thomas Röpper is a German national, and a German national only. He doesn't hold dual citizenship. So now we have a person with only a German nationality who is being sanctioned by the European Union, which means that these people can. I will show you what it means in just a second, but let's read what the accusation is by Kaja Kallas, and then that was adopted by the executive branch. Thomas Röpper is a German blogger. Through his network of online channels named Anti-Spiegel, he systematically disseminates misinformation about Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine and delegitimizes the Ukrainian government. So it is now forbidden to delegitimize the Ukrainian government, and it is forbidden to transmit anything that the German government doesn't agree on, or that the European Union doesn't agree on what are facts and what not when it comes to the Russo-Ukrainian war. Especially with a view to manipulating German public sentiment regarding support to Ukraine. Furthermore, he legitimizes Russia's illegal annexation Ukrainian territory by serving as an election observer and participating in a campaign to promote Russia's illegal referendum on the secession from Ukraine of the Russian-occupied territories. Moreover, he has served as a spokesperson for the government of the Russian Federation, disseminating Russian propaganda narratives, including the UN Aria Forum, Thomas Röpper is therefore engaging in and supporting the use of information manipulation and interference, and facilitates an armed conflict in third countries. And that's just what the European Union gives us. And these are his crimes, and you might notice here that there's of course no reference to any legal paragraphs, to any legal reasoning, to any forbidden acts in the European Union, according to whatever rules or legislation. This is, of course, it has no recourse on any kind of national legislation, because this is not based on any legislation. This is a pure exercise of power. And there's, of course, no court that adjudicates this, because the European Council is not a court of law. It's not. It's part of the executive branch. You now have an executive branch judging the behavior of the citizens of the European Union, and then just passing severe punishment. And if you wonder what the punishment is, here, the European Union even has these cute little infographics, the EU sanctions process explained. What are sanctions? And I find it very befitting that there's the silhouette of a protesting person right beneath the hammer. Actually, that's a very honest depiction of what this whole process is about. Who decides to impose EU sanctions? EU autonomous sanctions. The Council may decide to impose sanctions on its own initiative put forward by the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, so that's Kaja Kallas, to the member states, right? And they apply for 12 months. A travel ban is what it includes. So you're forbidden from traveling to the European Union. And by the way, as far as I understand, they at least had the grace to say that that it's up to Germany whether it will implement the travel ban for its two citizens or not. If Germany does that, by the way, that's a direct infringement of international law, because no state is allowed to forbid its citizens from coming home. That is a direct international law infringement, apart from the fact that I think that the rest of this is also an infringement on the human rights of the two Germans, but we'll discuss this in a moment. Asset freeze. So all of the assets of these people that were still inside the European Union are now frozen and cannot be used, and funds, they're not allowed to receive funds anymore, which for these two journalists now means that if you as a EU citizen or living in the European Union, if you're residing there and you're sending them money, then you are committing a offense against the EU. So these people cannot receive funding anymore from EU citizens. That's very, very severe, especially imagine like the funding of these people. Luckily, both of them are in Russia, so I suppose that they still have ways of dealing with this. And I must say, Alina Lip and Thomas what's his name? Sorry, Thomas Röpper. They did a short little video about this before the sanctions list actually was signed off on, and they look pretty relaxed. So I suppose that they will be fine. But this is, and Mr. Rupper actually said so in another stream, this is of course frightening, because this is just a test. If it works with them and if there's no public outcry, and if the EU, if the Commission, and not the Commission, the Council is not forced to take these sanctions back, then this is going to be the new tool in the toolbox of the EU. Ursula von der Leyen's "We've got tools." This is going to be a new tool, and they're going to use that tool. They're going to use it relentlessly, because this tool is a direct condemnation of people for doing things that these technocrats don't like, circumventing all of the courts, all courts, because you cannot. I don't know. No, I don't think you can actually use any national court in Germany in order to fight this decision, because this is an EU decision. You would have to go in front of an EU court or the European Union's, the European Court for Human Rights, in order to fight this decision. And I do hope that the two will do one of that. So the other person on this list is Alina Lip. That's her. Alina Lip has been a war correspondent for quite a while, and actually it's quite interesting. I mean, as a function or occupation here, the list even includes this function as a war correspondent. It admits that that's what she did, and also she is a German national only, and has no dual nationality. Let's read through her accusation. Alina, what she's accused of. Alina Lip runs the blog Neues aus Russland, News from Russia, in which she systematically disseminates misinformation about Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine and delegitimizes the Ukrainian government. The same accusation. So misinformation, and it's of course the EU technocrats who decide what misinformation is and what accurate information is. So we have now a Ministry of Truth, I suppose, in the EU as well, that then proclaims the truth. And the second one is like, you are not allowed to delegitimize the Ukrainian government. That's now a capital offense that will get you severest harsh punishments by the EU technocrats, especially with view to manipulating German public sentiment as regards regards support for Ukraine. Furthermore, she is using her role as a war correspondent with Russian armed forces in eastern Ukraine to spread Russian war propaganda. She regularly appears in troop entertainment and propaganda shows on the Russian military TV channel Zvezda. Thus, Alina Lip is engaging in and supporting actions by the government of the Russian Federation which undermine or threaten security and stability in the Union and in a third country, Ukraine, through the use of coordinated information manipulation and interference, and through facilitating an armed conflict in a third country. Well, that's it. If you appear in Russian TV, if you are of the opinion that Russia is correct and Ukraine is wrong, and Ukraine should give up and Russia should win, if that's your opinion, then you're not allowed to say that anymore. The European Union and freedom of speech in the European Union is now the freedom to say what the EU likes to hear. That's the freedom of speech that you've got. Congratulations, European Union. You are a disgrace to every free-thinking person out there. What a deep fall. Alina Lip, interestingly, she put out a statement when this happened. She said about it that what Germany and the EU are doing in connection with the Ukraine crisis is crazy. I've actually withdrawn myself for at least 2 years because I saw no chance of improvement. I haven't been in Donbass for almost 2 years, not on Russian TV. My channel stagnated. I didn't care, actually. I think I need to deal with what I've seen at the front. Now they're suddenly sanctioning me for what I haven't done for 2 years, which means everyone is talking about me again and my channels are growing. That's actually exactly what the EU doesn't want. That is absolutely illogical. Just leave me alone, and a tip. Maybe you should finally keep your feet still. Otherwise, the war you're talking about really will come to you. Enough people have already died, and I feel sorry for every single one of them on both sides of the front. Yeah, that sounds to me like a typical war provocateur, war hawk, right? That wants to spread death and despair and destruction and undermine the European Union. But this is the person that is now officially sanctioned since last week, and has all of her is a travel ban to the European Union. Maybe she can still go to Germany, but a travel ban to the Union, assets frozen, and she cannot receive any funds. This is very draconian. And now, in order to top the list of outrageous BS the European Union is currently doing, I want to show you the third journalist who got sanctioned last week, Hüseyin Doğru. Hüseyin Doğru, you must know, is a Turkish citizen, so he doesn't belong. Turkey is not part of the European Union, so he's not sanctioned in the Union. So at least it's not one of his home states. The outrageous thing about him is that most of his reporting had little to do with Russia. Most of his reporting has to do with West Asia, with the Middle East, with Palestine. And let's read through the accusation. And remember, this is a list of sanctions against people for their connection to Russia, for sanctioning Russia, right? This is the Russian sanction list. And now just read the accusation. Hüseyin Doğru is the founder and representative of Media.is, a media company based in Istanbul. Media.is operates Red, which comprises a number of media platforms and which has close financial organization connections with Russia, Russian state propaganda, entities and actors, and shares deep structural ties, including interlinkages between and rotations of individual personnel with Russian state media organizations. Okay, that's the accusation, and this has something to do with Russia. But now read on. Red has used its media platforms, often publishing under Red-streamed and Threat.stream, to systematically spread false information on political controversial subjects with the intent of creating ethnic, political, religious discord among its predominantly German audience, including by disseminating the narratives of radical Islamic terrorist groups such as Hamas. During a violent occupation of a German university by anti-Israel rioters, Red personnel coordinated with the occupiers to disseminate images of their vandalism, which included the use of Hamas symbols through their online channels, thus providing them with an exclusive media platform facilitating the violent nature of the protests. this is already half of the accusation is about Israel and Palestine and not about Russia at all. And this is now, you know, disseminating pictures of how people protest is against Israel and for Palestine is now a crime in the European Union. You cannot report that. You cannot show it. If you show this kind of material, then you are yourself part of the problem, and we will sanction you. But freedom of the press, no, everybody has the freedom to report exactly what we want to hear. If you report what we want to hear, freedom of the press, guaranteed. If you report on something that we don't want to hear, even if it's factually true, then you're giving these people a platform and we're going to sanction you. The accusation reads that through AFA media, Hussein Dogro does support actions by the government of the Russian Federation which undermine the threatened stability and security in the Union and in one or several member states, including by indirectly supporting and facilitating violent demonstrations and engaging in coordinated information manipulation. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is as dystopian as it gets. They are now taking the right, the European Union now takes the right to decide what is truth and what is falsehood. It takes the right to accuse people of just factual reporting. I mean, the accusation here is you went in and you showed what happened in this protest. That is now verboten. It's completely out of the question, right? This is draconic, and this is not, again, this is not a court. This is not. There's no due process. There was no accusation. These people had no chance to actually make their case. They're not brought in front of a judge. This is an executive decision. The executive of the European Union now takes the right to punish its own citizens and journalists of other states. This is, to me, this is utterly unacceptable. And, you know, it stands in stark contrast to everything the European Union says it is about. And this is new. This is new. Before, the sanctions lists were there and individuals were sanctions and companies were sanctions, but it was foreign nationals. It was mostly Russian nationals. And now the European Union is expanding this tool to its own citizens and foreign journalists. So brave new world, because if this continues, if they are not stopped, then, well, you know, Europe is just going to fall back to where it was 80 years ago, because Hitler too, you know, he started by just having executive decisions and ruling that everything he does is legal. This is a very old playbook. Just to show you again, the person who signed off on it is Kaja Kallas. That unelected technocrat of the European Union who sits in this office by virtue of the other technocrats choosing her, is now signing off like harshest kind of sanctions on fellow EU citizens. Well done, European Union. Well done.